Thanks for listening to Earth Eats, Eats Wild. When I think of foraging, I think of things like berries and nuts and mushrooms, leaves, maybe flowers. But I don't usually think of grain. Or I didn't until I learned of the wild rice that is native to the waterways in regions that we currently call Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan. The wild rice is also known as manumin. In the fall of 2024, I had the chance to talk with Nickole Keith and Kevin Harris of the Nottawaseppi Huron Band of the Potawatomi, also known as NHBP.
Bonjour, Nickole Keith, Indigenous. I am the Food Sovereignty Coordinator for the Nottawaseppi Huron Band of the Potawatomi. I currently live on Pine Creek Reservation, and I am Eagle Clan, and I am Potawatomi.
Welcome, Anishinaabe. My name is Kevin Harris, Culture Specialist of the Nottawaseppi Huron Band of the Potawatomi.
They were visiting to share a film about the wild rice with the First Nations Educational and Cultural Center on the IU campus in partnership with the IU Media School. I asked Kevin to start our conversation by sharing a bit of history about where they live.
Bonjour, Ginwa, Wawa Small Gijik, Indigenous, Shika and Doldem, Megadi ZB, Western Dochbia, Bode Wadmi, Nadwe ZB, Niyuk and Dibadagwis. We come from the Great Lakes region. We're from the Nottawaseppi Huron Band of the Potawatomi. We're only one of 12 bands of the Potawatomi, and we share territory with the other three fires, which is the Ojibwe and the Odawa. And there was evidence that there were other tribes in the area as well, but we always refer to Michigan as the Three Fires Nations. Unfortunately, the relatives got removed at a certain time in history, but Michigan is our home, the Great Lakes, the home of the food that grows on water.
You are here at Indiana University presenting a film about the wild rice that grows in the rivers in your region.
Yep.
And I would just love to hear more about that.
So we're here sharing our culture and our traditional lifeways with Indigenous students at IU, which is incredible and a safe place for Indigenous students to unlearn and relearn who they are and revitalize their traditional lifeways. And we got the privilege to work with IU to showcase some of our traditional lifeways back at home on our reservation so that we can showcase and sponsor events for not only our community, but all Indigenous communities. It wasn't too long ago where a lot of our culture was stripped away and then where we're not able to share it and show it. And now that we're in this space to where we can drive this cultural vehicle, we can start showing it our people. And with our tribe, we have a strategic plan which is implemented by the people, our tribal members. And the main goal is to revitalize culture and our traditional lifeways in education and in health, things like that, that we can start implementing back in our people, which gives us that right to be a sovereign nation. You know, that's showing colonization. You know, America did their job, but they didn't finish the job. So we're still here, and that's why it's unique for us to share and show the world that, you know, we still have culture and we still have our ceremonies. So, Iguian.
In the film, they showed scenes from a wild rice camp that they organize on their reservation. I wanted to hear more about that.
Wild Rice Camp started a long time ago. It actually started thousands of years ago with our ancestors having a real-time lifeway. Wild Rice Camp allows us to revitalize that old time, and it starts with ceremony. With sunrise, we strike that fire up, and we have our sunrise ceremony, and we pray, and we understand our people, and we learn our teachings, pipe ceremony, and have that duality for man and woman with our water ceremonies. And the men striking that fire because we're a Bodeh Wadmi, fire keepers. And then we transition into an activity, the work. We start to gather our warriors, our rice warriors, and they go out on the water and they start to scout where they can go, where the rice is plentiful, and they start there. And then after they scout for the rice, they collect the rice and they bring it back to the ceremony, the land, the camp. And then the ones that aren't able to get on the water or don't have any space to come out, they're out on the sites and they're making tools, and they're making baskets, and they're all staying busy, and then some are cooking. And we have this whole revitalization of that old time, that whole spirituality is existing. And it started with that fire, that tobacco being lowered down, and we expand into this revitalization, which all you see is smiles and see the culture being what it's supposed to be.
Being celebrated.
And celebrated and honored.
And then learning at the same time how to be respectful of that plant, of that food, not to take too much, and to leave some for the animals and for next year's harvest.
What are some of the tools that are used in the harvesting and the collecting and the kind of processing of the wild rice?
Well, the first tool is your heart. The second tool is your sema. You offer your tobacco first before you take anything from the earth. It's a trade amongst us human beings and Mother Earth. And then the next thing is the tools that help us collect the rice. And we call them knocking sticks made out of cedar. And is a traditional way of how you knock the rice in the canoe. And then in our location,
don't forget about the G-man.
The G-man is the canoe. So you need something to float on the creek, right? And then we have our what we call Potawatomi sticks, because our rice is so different from other rice, the lake rice. Our rice grows about 8 to 12 feet tall, so we have to bring it down to our level to actually knock it down into our G-man. So it's a unique process. So we have our knocking sticks, we have our Potawatomi sticks, we have our canoe, our G-man, and then we have ourselves, collecting that rice and offering tobacco, the main essentials to it, and laughter in our songs. You have to kind of sing with the rice and appreciate it because it's just like us.
And at the same time, the tools, the G-man, those things are made out of, those are at stake. Like, those are in jeopardy. So, like, the birch bark is nowhere in our territory right now because they were infested with the beetle?
There was invasive species. And up north, they have a little bit more of that birch tree. Down south, we don't have too many birch. And cedar is kind of getting scarce. It grows in swampy areas.
And so that's how we depend on our three fires, because they live in different territories. And so they are able to kind of barter. We have this bartering system within our tribes. So our northern tribes so we have partnerships with them, and they'll come down where they have plentiful rice, and they come and teach us. And so it's like a trade, a constant trade. Like, so many of our elders have either walked on or aged. We're taking on those teaching roles, but we still need those partners that do it for a living. And so they might belong to another tribe, a whole different tribe, like a Ottawa tribe or...
Yeah, different territories.
So it's knowledge and materials that are being shared and bartered and traded.
Yeah. We've always had that relationship, but colonization put up a border between our knowledge, created treaties, and forged words underneath the treaty, fraud and duress. So it kind of limits us by law to go certain places, but we've always had these friendship and partnerships with other tribes, different areas. So it's important to kind of practice these treaty rights and fight for our people's treaty rights.
So can you tell me a little bit more about the rice, just for folks who may not even be familiar with the lake rice, and how the lake rice is different from the river rice? And
so scientists, they have two different categories for the rice. The lake rice that you might have seen on the grocery store shelves, wild rice, is probably from the upper areas of Michigan, Wisconsin area, and scientists call it palustris. The river rice that we have that's in our areas that aren't on the shelves, it's called aquatica. So there's two different species, but it's the same ancestor. And our rice is a little bit smaller in size, but it's big in spirit. The northern rice is a little bit bigger, and it's so much of it to where people capitalize on it now and sell it. Different reservations have their own rights to certain areas in that location, and I only can speak for our rice, and our rice is protected by a law that we have to keep it sacred to our tribe. And we're not only harvesting it, but we're transplanting and restoration projects for it So it's something that's unique to us that is a staple to our food sovereignty program and our sovereignty in general. So we're able to only get a little bit of the rice to feed our ceremonies at feast time and then appreciate it. We use it more of a medicine other than a food source, like a huge food source that is all through the grocery stores, you know. It's just enough to feed our families when we have our ceremonies and some of our events that we sponsor. And then the ones that do rice all the time, well, every season they take it home and they make their dishes. So it's kind of like a delicacy for our people. And we really protect that. It's a really good grain.
Can you say more about the laws that are protecting the rice?
In Michigan right now, the wild rice is a state grain. So they're referring to both rices, but with our rice, it's very protected, and we're the only ones that can cultivate and deal with it and harvest it right now.
And that just happened
yeah.
under Governor Whitmer's administration. That just became the state grain.
Wow. And you are cultivating it in that you're planting more of it, you're transplanting it, you're scattering seed, you're finding places where it can grow, expanding it in the places that it's suitable.
So we kind of documented it on our social media page, and it ended up going viral when we transplanted because there was a private residence next to a property that we have. They wanted the space cleared out, and we just kind of went in there to get the plants and to put them somewhere else or either on our reservation.
Because they were going to remove them.
Yeah, and they wanted a clear space so they can see the water. And we didn't think anything about it. Like, we just went in and did it, and it ended up going viral. And there was so many different indigenous people and tribes that was like, you can do that. And so some of the plants took, and that was a huge process. First of all, you have to be tall, and you have to wear waders because when you transplant it back into the muck, you have to dig in, and then there's turtles and snakes and leeches, and so, and I'm not a water person, so that was life-changing to me to get in the water because I'm not even I don't even know how I did it to this day, but I just did it. It just was just something I just did. I didn't think nothing about it. I never had a leech on me, and for the first time in my life, I had a leech on me.
A lot of people just don't know what's outside, and I'm only speaking for our nation, the Anishinaabe people, that being stewards of the earth, our outside is our home, so everything that's on the ground or what Mother Earth carries, we implement that through our stories and through our regalia. So you see these floral patterns of these plants, these sacred medicines that are embedded through our personalities, through art, beadwork, and traditional work that we do. Some of our teachers, they already knew about this and they know these plants. So it's our job to learn our traditional life ways and our culture so that we can find the resources that we don't know. Now, it's always going to be a mystery to others. They don't know what's outside because, let's just say, they're new to this place. And like I said earlier, a lot of folks that are in America now came from somewhere else that are indigenous to that land. So you get a generation of people that don't know, what's natural or what's outside. But we are in a generation where curiosity is there. Everyone wants to learn. Everyone goes green. Everything's green now and healthier. And we've been taught what to consume, So it's all about unlearning and relearning at the bottom. And it feels better when we all understand because the earth is meant to share. And that's why we are stewards of the land. So each race of man has their job. They have to take care of the earth so it can take care of us. And once we realize that and quit being raced, we will understand what the earth is telling us. So when we get connected to these plants, our feelings and our spirituality opens up. These plants been waiting for us to acknowledge them for thousands of years. They're just sitting there speaking their language, and we're just sitting here speaking colonization language and in our own ignorance because we've been colonized into a way to where we only learn what we learn, what they show us. So when we get a chance to go to ceremonies or learn our ways, it really opens up the third eye of all human beings, especially indigenous people or Native Americans, because that culture is still there and we have to kind of listen. We have to be quiet and listen. Don't talk. Just listen to what they're saying. Listen to the earth. Listen to the natural resources talk to you. It's a language. You might not come out in a physical language as a feeling, a language, a different sense in our bodies that we can connect and feel it. And that's just being outside, listening to the wind, putting your feet into the dirt. You get a sense of humanness, human being. And right now, the focus of presence. So it's very powerful with how the plants work on us. And they're our relatives. We need it. We trade with them, give it tobacco. And we're intended to be buried back into the earth, to give it back, or give ourselves back to the earth. And the new generation is populated with the same blood memory, which is unique.
Yeah, and I think when anyone learns more about what's around us and the plants and all the other, the water, that when you develop that relationship and that connection, then you're more likely to want to protect and save that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I take your point that it's useful for anyone to be to be connecting to that.
Yeah, like Elder told us, he said, we destroyed the earth. The earth is crying. And it's just showing the connection that we need to start paying attention to. Quit littering. Stop that fuel that's underneath the waters, for the money. What about the 7 generations? Our kids might not be able to appreciate earth. You can appreciate other things that we never even knew would happen. Well, we predicted it, but how do you get through it,
Yeah, and there was a place in the film where you talked about what it means for people who haven't been outside and haven't been on the water and just what that experience is like for them at the wild rice camp and throughout this process of reconnecting with the plant. And
Yep. Showing people something that never done or experienced was like something you can't take away from them. It was a self-care is more of a memory that will always be implanted in their minds. And what we call it in our talks is blood memory, and not just for Native American, but all human beings have a blood memory of that natural mindset. We come from the earth. Everything on earth created is a part of us, and we're stewards of the earth. So just seeing different smiles and like having people touch it and be one with the earth, you joke about it a lot, like I'm one with the earth, and then I show you you're one with the earth, and they actually feel it. I like it. We've had invited guests that aren't Native American, but they're family members, spouses, and that's all they talk about is, I don't care if I fall out in that water. It felt good. I'll do it again. But I can't have you falling in the water on purpose. We have to get rice. But just them being happy and knowing that was fun, it's like I have a purpose. We all have a purpose to open that door for everybody to be appreciative. And the biggest thing is that rice loves it. The rice wants that community. That rice wants you to come to his house and open a door, bring gifts, have fun with them. And so the rice can live longer and be appreciative, just like us human beings. So all living thing has a spirit that we talk about. So it's pretty nice to see people that have never been on a boat or a canoe. I've never fell in the water from canoeing, but I fell in the water trying to get out the canoe, So it's like we all have that moment where we get that good cleansing, and like I think people like that more. Trials, but that was pretty nice.
Prior to this year's transplanting, I never been a wild rice person, I guess. I always attended the camps, but I was always cooking for the camp. So I never was out on the water harvesting because I'm not a water person. I don't like boats. I don't like swimming. I'll relax at the beach, but like I'm not a water person.
Uh-huh.
And so when we went to transplant, it was just so important to me that my first mindset was to go get the rice. If it's going to be harmed, like our mission is to go get this rice. And so I didn't even think about the leeches or the snapping turtles. And after doing that, it's like recognizing it. And so I don't know how to explain it, but it's just like, it changed my life. It made me appreciate the water a lot more, that this food that grows on it, like with our food being in jeopardy now and the price of food and just everything that we're doing for our tribe with food, it just comes together. Like I've come full circle.
Nickole shared the story of her path to the position she now holds in her tribe, the Food Sovereignty Coordinator. She had worked as a youth specialist and then in a program supporting elders in the community. She organized activities for elders and built strong connections with the people she served. But it was emotionally difficult work.
We've lost a lot of relatives to poor diet and alcoholism, and I believe that alcohol is not a part of our diet, is not a part of who we are.
Many of these elders were not even making it into their 50s.
I went into being a tribal elder specialist, which were a fairly new role, and it was really emotionally draining. And a lot of our elders, it was kind of molded into kind of like a fun job, and to take them traveling and to do crafts, and then it became emotionally draining because so many elders were dying. And it's almost as if I became the nurse, the doctor, and I was living on I'm living on the reservation. And so a lot of those elders were calling me first before they call 911. And then I found myself planning funerals and becoming almost like a hospice nurse. And so I ended up resigning from that position. It just became really overwhelming. And I went into intensive therapy. And for the first time, I was able to really pursue my art. And after each session, I painted like whole paintings within 4 to 6 hours, just based on what I broke through during those sessions. And then in, I want to say, 5 to 6 months' time, I had finished about 12 paintings, I believe. And I did my first art show. It was like a kind of like an art show, art walk. They call it Art Walk of Battle Creek. And I bought a tent, and then I went downtown, put price tags on them, priced them out. That was my first time really pricing out my art and finishing that many pieces. And my whole family came out and supported me. And each one of my relatives, my close relatives, bought one. And they're 4'4". They're made out of birch plywood. And I named them certain names during my therapy sessions. They had certain names that I went through. Like one was chaos, one was awakening. I had like a spiritual awakening. And then at the same time, I was practicing sobriety. And each person that bought one fit that certain painting. And I can't explain it, but just something just happened.
When she was ready to return to serving her tribe, the food sovereignty position was available, and she knew it was where she needed to be.
Later on, I found out, kind of going through therapy and putting those things together, is that our elders were having basically a poor man's diet. And we were constricted to live on these reservations, so they grew up with these same recipes, this same diet. And a lot of them didn't eat a balanced meal.
So, like, what kinds of foods and what was the diet that they had just gotten used to?
Bologna, Spam, things that were easy, and they had in their mind that, you know, they were consuming something, putting something on their stomach, but not the healthiest thing. And they come from a generation where they survived off commodities, things that were harmful to them. And even in my generation, even with my mom, we grew up, we had 3 meals, but they were not the healthiest meals. We were on a poor man's diet. And so, like myself, I have to retrain my mind. And a day before I accepted this job, my mom had a major health scare. And we learned that she had diabetes. And then on top of that, she had cirrhosis. And my mom has never been a drinker. And now that we got education from that and talking to a dietitian and her doctor, we learned that not only is there cirrhosis of the liver due to alcohol, but there's cirrhosis of the liver due to poor diet. During the last year of my job, I lost a very close elder. And after losing her, it was like some of her conditions could have been prevented, based on her diet. And then after the Food Sovereignty Coordinator job became available, it was almost like that was the answer. And then part of this job was to kind of help create the actual program to kind of be in the influence of what is being taught during that time. And I was like, this is where it is. This is the answer. This is how to get our elders to live up to where they're supposed to be, like 100 years old, 80s, 90s, not 50, I lost so many people under the age of 50. Like a lot of people in my family did not make it to 50.
It was a program that involved community gardening and returning to traditional foodways, including wild food gathering and fishing.
Okay, so we have over 1,600 members, and every household can receive a garden container. We call it the Garden Container Project. And so the first year we sent out seeds, and they have to request it through our jot form system, which is on our members only page. So it's like a private page. And they get on there, they can see our programs, they can see calendars and everything. And so we have this, I don't want to call it an event, but it's the project. It comes out in early spring. And so the first year, everybody was qualified to participate. And then our elders that live within the Service County area, because we couldn't send, because we were making them. We were hand making these garden. They were like 8-foot beds. They could choose if they want a raised bed. And so we had 2 people that were contracted through our department, and they actually went to their house and put them together. Mm-hmm. And so I think the first year was over 50 beds were distributed.
Wow.
And then we did it the second year, and the numbers rose, and we did it the third year. And so we expanded that in our third year to families. So any family that lived within the state of Michigan wanted a raised bed, we would have them, same 2 individuals, go out. And we went as far as Gaylord, which is a little far from our reservation, probably, I believe, 4 hours. And the participation was just like through the roof. I mean, we had so many first-time gardeners, so many people interested. While we are building this program, one of the things that I stand strong on is educating from the ground up and giving back what was taken away from us. And what I learned is that just giving our members these seeds and these garden beds, there was a little bit of bumps, but they were so excited after the plants. These first-time gardeners, I'm talking about 30 to 60 people, and the numbers keep going up on the participation.
So the container garden program is one of your programs, and then you're also doing other kinds of nutrition education and offering meals.
Yeah, so it just depends on the month. So if we're harvesting asparagus, which is one of our permanent plants at the farm, we'll put asparagus nutrition facts or dishes, and then we try to be mindful of different health concerns that we have that we are aware of with our members. So like if they have one kidney, like don't consume so many asparagus, it's bad for your kidney. So I'll put like different articles from health journals on there.
And you said that you have a farm, and so you're growing food there. And do people come and participate in that, like volunteer with that?
So we're in stages. We had this farm for, I believe it's going on 3 years, it might be 4 years. The first stage was to put our name on it because it's off our reservation. It's about 5 minutes from our reservation on a busy highway. And our first thing was to put a name to it and then put who we are, Pine Creek Farms, a sign. And then we put a mural on the pole barn. And then what was already there when we purchased it was the peach trees and asparagus. And so we just built off that. And then we went into having a blueberry patch because those are from sharing things on our social media page and articles about berries because berries are natural to us and we were berry pickers.
Yeah.
And so we have the blueberries, which is good for diabetes. And then we put cherry trees in because of gout and cardiovascular issues that we have.
The berries and the cherries, too, just seem to me like Michigan foods.
Yeah.
They do well up there.
And then pumpkins, is everybody wanted pumpkins. So we end up planting over 250 pumpkins, and I think only like maybe 20 came in. But it's kind of like a learning thing that we're going through.
They also have a program called Job Bank,
where our members come in and they can get a job if they don't fit those standards of working for our government, those background checks. And it's like our program has given those members a second chance, but we're healing. And it's everything that I've been working towards, those dots are finally connected.
Hey.
And people are understanding how much important this work is. And I wouldn't be able to do it without being sober. And now everybody is coming full circle. And that awakening moment is happening. And recently we were on a site visit in Arizona, and I got a call from a member that was, we recently had a salmon fishing trip. And one of the things that we ask is that, you kind of be sober on these trips. It's not mandatory, but it's just respectful so that, everybody's kind of on the same page, I guess. And he called during that rehab visit because we're trying to combine what we're doing at the farm with rehabilitation. So when our members come home, they have an environment to go to, a safe space. And he called me and he was so excited. And he was like, I understand what you're doing. He said, I understand what that salmon trip meant. He said, you want us sober? He said, I am here for you. I'm sober. And I want to teach our people how to fish because I want to do what you want us to do. And he was like, give me the supplies and I'll do it. Because we go outside and we think that everybody else has an answer, and the answer is within us. We are the people of our tribe, and we have it, and it's just getting everybody on the same page. And I get so frustrated because nobody seems like they don't get it. And then when they finally get it, I'm like, okay, we got it. Let's go. Run with me. Stop walking. Let's run. Mm-hmm. But the water and fishing and gardening and gathering, that's our answer, because that's the epitome of our culture, is our land and being stewards of the land.
I've been talking with Nickole Keith, Food Sovereignty Coordinator of the Nottawaseppi Huron Band of the Potawatomi, also known as NHBP. With us in conversation was Kevin Harris, Cultural Specialist with the NHBP. They visited Bloomington in the fall of 2024 to share a film about wild lake rice with the First Nations Educational and Cultural Center on the IU campus, in partnership with the IU Media School. Find links to more information about their work on our website, eartheats.org.